We're going to look at our words now for Lesson 10. Our first word this week is filch. So let me bring the sentence up. The devious boy filched a $20 bill from his mother's purse. Check your part of speech on your context clues worksheet. Make sure you have down a verb for this. The boy is doing something. Your context clue here is going to be devious. If a boy or anyone is described as devious, obviously it's not a good thing. He's getting the money out of his mother's purse without her permission, and so filched is going to mean to steal. Some synonyms would be pilfer or pinch. Our next word is desolate. Here's the sentence. In the movie Castaway, Chuck Nolan, Tom Hanks' character, is stranded on a desolate island. You can see desolate is right before the noun island. That's going to mean this word is an adjective. This is one of my favorite movies. You might have seen it before. He is by himself. He's in a plane crash, and there is no one there with him. Stranded would be a context clue here as well, meaning that this is a negative situation. So as I mentioned before, no one is on the island, so that's our clue here to what it means. Lonely, forlorn, uninhabited, no one is living there, barren. Synonyms would be deserted or bleak. Sometimes we use this word to talk about how we feel in a certain situation. Maybe we feel like no one is on our side, no one understands what we're going through, and we feel desolate about that. The opposite would be populous, meaning there's a lot of people there, population, or thinking about the situation I just mentioned where we feel all alone and we're despondent, the opposite would be cheerful because we have people who are on our side. Our next word is dawdle. Here's our sentence. You dawdle and dally and always arrive late. Well, the subject of the sentence, you, is doing something. So that's how we know this is a verb. Our context clue is the word dally. We had that word earlier this year, and so it's going to mean the same thing as dally, to waste time. Synonyms would be tarry or loiter. Sometimes you see in front of stores signs that say no loitering. The owners of the business don't want people just hanging around unless they're going to come in and actually buy something. The opposite would be hasten or expedite. If you want to expedite something, you want to speed it up. Our next word is fallible. Flawed data programmed into a computer delivers fallible output, or, as the saying goes, garbage in, garbage out. We have a couple of different context clues here. The first word in the sentence, flawed, you know if something is flawed, it's messed up. There's a mistake. There's an error. Garbage in, garbage out. Garbage is also negative, so fallible is going to be negative. It is an adjective. It's describing the noun output. Here's our definition. Capable of error. Imperfect would be a synonym. Think about how our God is described as infallible. He is incapable of error, so that would be the opposite. Flawless as well would be an antonym. Our next word is fawn. Now we're not talking about a baby deer here. This is actually a verb. We're using it as an action word. Weekly magazines encourage their readers to fawn over the current popular celebrities. So just think about our culture, how people are obsessed with finding out news about movie stars, musicians, etc. And they are always, the paparazzi is following these people all of the time. So our definition here is to act slavishly submissive. Slavishly, think about a slave. Synonym would be grovel. People just want to get attention from these famous people. They want to be noticed by these famous people. Think about groupies for rock musicians. The opposite would be ignore, disregard, or neglect. Next is pacify. The negotiator tried to pacify the angry group of outside agitators. The negotiator is doing something, so we know it's a verb. We've got an angry group of people, and a negotiator would get involved to try and make them feel better, to try and make them calm down. Think about the word pacifier, the noun version of this word. We give babies pacifiers to try and get them calm, to get them to stop crying. So the meaning of this would be to calm down. Synonyms would be appease or placate. The opposite would be to provoke, to agitate. You make somebody angry or upset. Next is affiliate. Here's our sentence. He denied that he was an affiliate of any organized crime families. Here's our definition. An associate or partner. He's denying that he works with these crime families. He doesn't want to get in trouble by the police or the FBI. Now, this word can also be used as a verb. If it's used as a verb, we say affiliated. So if you change the sentence to make it a verb, you might say, he denied that he was affiliated with the organized crime families. So as a noun, though, the definition is an associate or a partner. The synonym would be a member or a colleague. My affiliates are my fellow teachers here at school. Next is calumny. This is an interesting word. Don't see it too often. Shakespeare actually uses it in Hamlet. The candidate said that the accusation against him was a calumny meant to damage his reputation. Context clues are going to be accusation and damage. Of course, we're going to be seeing this more and more in the next several months as our presidential election kicks up. Calumny is a false and malicious accusation. Synonyms would be slander and slur. The opposite would be compliment. Check your part of speech. It is a noun. Next word is prevaricate. This is actually a synonym of a word we had in lesson 9. Prevaricate all you want. You're doing something, so it's a verb. But, so we're going to have an opposite context clue. Sooner or later, the truth will come out. So the opposite is truth. So if you prevaricate about something, you lie about it. Synonym would be hedge. Next word is berate. Instead of berating the insistent beggar, so again, we're going to have the opposite context clue, Frederick took him to a diner and bought him a meal. If he were berating the beggar, he would say, if he berated the beggar instead, he would be saying things like, why don't you get a job? You're so lazy. Earn your own money. Get your own food. So if you berate someone, you scold them, you rebuke them severely and at length. Maybe sometimes you feel like your parents are berating you because you didn't get the grade that they thought you should have gotten in a class. Maybe you feel like coaches berate you sometimes because you mess up the play. You drop the ball, you fumble it. Maybe you feel like teachers berate you sometimes. Admonish, reprimand would be synonyms. The opposite would be praise. Next is bane. This might sound familiar if you're a Batman fan. And it is a noun. You are the bane of my existence, John said to his annoying stockbroker. Annoying is going to be your context clue. If you feel like somebody or something is the bane of your existence, you feel like they're the cause of ruin, harm, distress, or death. So I know in Batman, there was a character named Bane who would be the supposed cause of Batman's distress. Sometimes you might feel like a certain subject in school is the bane of your existence. My daughter feels like math is the bane of hers. A synonym would be blight. Another one would be curse. The opposite would be aid or assistance. Next is blatant. This one's going to be an adjective. Marilyn saw blatant fashion errors. It's describing the fashion errors or the errors all around her. So she wore understated outfits. If something is blatant, it's obvious. There's no hiding the error or the mistake. Too conspicuous. It stands out. Synonyms would be unconcealed or deliberate. Opposite would be secretive or cautious. I think blatant is used in basketball. I think, if I'm right, they're blatant fouls. Basketball players, you can correct me in class on that. Neophyte. Think about neo. This was in our context clues exercise for lesson 9. And that should help you figure this out pretty quickly. People love to see the neophytes, so it's a noun, beat the experts. So the opposite context clue is in this sentence as well. Neophyte is the opposite of an expert. So we're talking about a beginner or a novice or an amateur. The opposite is expert or veteran. Minion is our next word. This is going to be familiar to you because of the popularity of those Despicable Me movies. The minion, so it's a noun, kept their leader from seeing that his country was plunging into chaos. So we've got a fawning, using one of our earlier words from this lesson. Servile follower, so acting like a servant or a slave. Synonym would be a lackey or a leader. Garble is our next word. When you are tired, it is easy to garble, so this is a verb, the simplest instructions. Think about how you feel if you come to school and you've had hardly any sleep. You might not even be able to communicate clearly with your friends. If I come to school and I have not slept well, I feel like I'm garbling my teaching during the day, especially for, second period in the morning. And if you garble something, it means you mix it up or distort it. Maybe your speech is garbled. Jumble or corrupt would be synonyms.